In this video, we will be talking about matrix multiplication. So let's say you want to multiply matrix A by matrix B. Well, we can first see that matrix A has two rows and three columns, while matrix B has three rows and two columns. And in order to perform matrix multiplication, the number of columns for the first matrix has to equal the number of rows for the second matrix. So for matrix A, we have three columns, and for matrix B, we have three rows. So since these numbers are equal to each other, we can perform matrix multiplication. And another thing to know is that when we perform matrix multiplication for matrix A and B, the result matrix will have the number of rows for the first matrix and the number of columns for the second matrix. So our result matrix will be a 2 by 2 matrix, meaning it has two rows and two columns. So for the first cell, so on the top left, what would that be? So to calculate that value, we would have to perform the dot product for the first row and the first column. So let's do this on the side. So we have 1 times 1, so 1 times 1 plus 2 times 2 plus 3 times 3. And this is equal to 1 plus 4 plus 9, which is equal to 14. So for this cell, the top left cell, we have 14. So now let's calculate the top right cell. So we perform the dot product for the first row for matrix A and the left column for matrix B. So let's do that. So let me just erase everything. So now we're working with 1 times 0. So 1 times 0 plus 2 times 1. So 2 times 1 plus 3 times 2. And this is equal to 0 plus 2 plus 6. And this is equal to 8. So for our result matrix, for the top right cell, we have 8. And now let's calculate the bottom left cell. And to calculate that, we would have to perform the dot product for the bottom row for matrix A and the left column for matrix B. So we have 4 times 1 4 times 1 plus 5 times 2 plus 6 times 3. So this is equal to 4 plus 10 plus 18, and this gives us 32. And for our bottom right cell, it would be the dot product of the bottom row for matrix A and the right column for matrix B. So we would have 4 times 0, which is 0, plus 5 times 1, which is 1, plus 6 times 2, which is 12, and this gives us 17. So for the cell, it would be 17. And this would be our final answer. In our next example, matrix A has two rows and two columns, and matrix B has three rows and two columns. So we can see that since matrix A has two columns and matrix B has three rows, these two numbers are not equal to each other. So that means we cannot perform matrix multiplication for this example. For our next example, we have two 2 by 2 matrices, and we can see that for our first matrix, we have two columns, And for our second matrix, we have 2 rows. So since these two numbers are equal to each other, we can perform matrix multiplication. And for our first matrix, we have 2 rows, and for our second matrix, we have 2 columns. So the resulting matrix would have 2 rows and 2 columns. So to calculate the result for the top left cell, we would have to perform the dot product for the top row of the first matrix and the left column of the second matrix. So we have 1 times 5, 1 times 5, plus 2 times 7. And this is equal to 19. So for the top left cell, we have 19. So to calculate the top right cell, we have to take the dot product of the first row, or the top row of the first matrix, and the right column of the second matrix. So we have 1 times 6, 1 times 6, plus 2 times 8, 2 times 8, and this will give us 22. So 22 is the answer for the top right cell. To calculate the bottom left cell, we would have to perform the dot product for the bottom row of the first matrix and the left column of the second matrix. So we have 3 times 5, which is equal to 15, plus 4 times 7, which is equal to 28, and that gives us 43. Finally, for the bottom right cell, we would have to calculate the dot product for the bottom row of our first matrix and the right column of our second matrix. So we have 3 times 6, which gives us 18, plus 4 times 8, which gives us 32, and that results in 50. So for our bottom right cell, we would have 50. And this is our final answer. For our next example, we have a 1 by 3 matrix times a 3 by 1 matrix. So we can see that these two numbers are equal to each other. So matrix multiplication is applicable. And here we have a 1, and here we also have a 1. So our result matrix would be a 1 by 1 matrix. So for our first matrix, we have 1 row, and for our second matrix, we have 1 column. And to obtain the value of our only cell for the result matrix, we would have to perform the dot product. So we have 2 times 1. So 2 times 1 gives us 2, plus 3 times 5, which gives us 15, plus 4 times 2, which gives us 8. And this results in 25. So our final answer is a matrix, a 1 by 1 matrix with 25. And here is our final answer. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and thank you very much for watching.